Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the AI InterConnect podcast. I'm your host, Laurent, and on this show, we explore how real leaders apply technology in the real world across AI, prop tech, fintech, and global innovation ecosystems. Today, I'm joined by Daniel Ong, managing partner at Omni Integra. And Omni Integra helps companies scale into Singapore and Southeast Asia while focusing on human centered technology and sustainable smart cities. Danielle, thank you for being here. Very, very happy to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Laurent. I am very, very grateful to be given an opportunity to speak to your listeners, to your audience. You did pronounce my family name very well. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's tough. And I think I forgot.
Well, just a short story. I mean, I had to adopt the name Daniel when I was studying in Canada simply because my professors couldn't pronounce my last name. And they were calling me NG, which I don't really like because that's a girl's name. I'm not a girl. And therefore, you now have the story of unable to pronounce last name and the name Daniel.
Wonderful. I love it. That's a good first story. Okay, then
Thank you.
let's have this a great conversation. Let's start with your background so listeners understand the path that led you here. You have over 4 decades in the IT industry, including role at IBM, Microsoft, and Red Hat. What kind of experience? I mean, this kind of experience gives a very unique perspective. No question. Daniel, how did your background in global technology leadership lead you to leave the corporate world and start Omni Integra?
Okay. I mean, do you have 3 days for me to tell the story? Because it's a long one. No, you're
I'm
absolutely
sure.
right. I've spent the last 42 years of my life in the career in IT primarily, but in many disciplines of IT. It went from, obviously, I graduated from Canada, University of Guelph, in computing and information science in 1984. Yes, we did have computers back then. And then from there, I went back to Malaysia, which is my country of birth, and joined a German company called Nixdorf. And Nixdorf basically was producing what you call solutions for banking industry, for utilities, for government. So I was in charge of writing software. Long and behold, I realized that I'm more a people person rather than sitting behind a terminal. Nothing against sitting behind a terminal, but that's just not me in that sense. So I actually ventured out, and when I joined salespeople to go and do customer calls, and I found that I love it. I love hearing stories. I love hearing challenges. I love hearing, how people solve different problems differently. And soon, I always say I'm very blessed in the sense that opportunities at that time was abound. And I was asked to start the marketing department of digital. Now, both these companies no longer exist in its former self. Nixdorf has gone through a few iterations. It's Siemens Nixdorf, it's been called Nixdorf and all that. But I joined the original Nixdorf and we went to Paderborn in Germany for training. And digital as well has been bought by Compaq. Compaq was bought by HP and now they're all part of HP in that sense. So I do belong to an era where names of companies are no longer, you know, what it that is in the market today. There was never AWS or Google at that time, right? So my journey actually took me from software engineer to a marketer, to a salesperson, to government relations, representative for IBM, as well as doing operations. So it offers me a whole gamut of experiences as well as exposure. So, I like to say in this analogy, I went from 1 inch to 1 mile. What does that mean? 1 inch 1 inch by 1 inch is one product by one country. 1 inch by 1 mile is one product by one region of many countries. And eventually I landed up with 1 mile by 1 mile, all products for all the regions here in Asia Pacific and globally as well. So the journey actually, as you quite rightly put it, Laurent, took me from looking at the power of chips. And that's how I kind of concocted the whole idea of smarter cities. Because if you peel the onion of smarter cities, you will find that you need powerful chips. At that time, the battle was between Digital and IBM, who could produce the first MIP computer. Now, when I talk to youngsters today, what's a MIP? A MIP is millions of instructions per second. And they go like, is that a problem? I said, not a problem. It was the graduation of IT from the speed of chip. And at that time, the first computer with a 1 MIP processor was an IBM. It was digital. And today, if you kind of look at your smartphones, I don't know how many MIPS it actually computes. So it went from MIPS. Then you need very logically advanced software to run on those chips. Because I've never found a system that has hardware without software or software without hardware. And so you come up with object-oriented and stuff like that. And I went through that. And the next one was the battle of storage. I don't know if you went through it. I went through a 16 KB floppy disk drive that is slotted into a, computer, which is the first PC in that sense, and you make the sound like, and it's reading. And today, what do we have? I mean, the iPad that I'm using to speak to you right now has 1 terabyte of storage. It's unthinkable, right? From that time, and so the generation today is kind of bewildered and said, "What do you mean, 16 KB?" And remember, we always have to clear memory before we can actually load the next software. It was so funny. And the fourth one is really bandwidth. I remember doing a system for the multimedia super corridor in Malaysia, where I was working for Sun Microsystems then, another company that is no longer in existence as it is now part of Oracle. We had to click. So the network is the computer, was Sun's motto. So the app was on a server, and you click on that app and you could really go down for a cup of coffee and breakfast. And when you come back, the app isn't even open again. And it was a bandwidth thing. Now, do we talk about that? And the last but not least is talent. People. People need to upgrade and advance themselves with all this technology. So why am I telling you this story? Because it will fit into our conversation as we go on in terms of my charter or my passion in humanizing technology, or as you put it, building human-centered technology for a sustainable, smarter city. And when you kind of peel that onion, you kind of look at, wow, does it need chips? Yes. Now they don't see it because it's in the cloud. Does it need software? Yes. They don't see it. Now it's called an app. Does it need, storage? Yes. They don't see it. It's called, Google Drive somewhere or OneDrive somewhere. And does it need bandwidth? Yes, it's called your telco, ISP, right? So the nature of IT, Laurent, if I may, is when it is successful and when it is, how should I put it, without much problem, it becomes infrastructure. It becomes the pipes in your house that you never see until it springs a leak. So my journey has gone through the numerous companies. I've been head of marketing for IBM in Singapore, in ASEAN, in Asia Pacific. I've been COO of Microsoft Singapore. I've been head of marketing for companies, inaugural head of marketing for companies like Red Hat. The last one was Neo4j. So gotten into a lot of connected data. And to answer your short question in a long way, why did I come and start up my own company? My friend says, I'm working harder in retirement than before. And what they mean is, I seems to have a new lease of life on my career. And the answer is very simple. My retirement is defined as doing the things that I like with the people whom I like. Truth be said, when you're earning a salary, you sometimes don't do the things that you like, and you have to work with people whom you don't like, right? So the whole journey took me from multiple multinational company, and the knowledge and network, very importantly, the people that I gained from my previous 40 years of corporate world allow me to connect the dots and bring different solutions to bear, working with different people whom I like. Hopefully that answers your question.
I love it, definitely, and many other. We need 4 hours, but we'll try
You
our
should do a
best.
Lex Friedman podcast where he goes on for 4 hours. But yeah.
Okay, let me jump in. From our pre-conversation, you explain, and I jump to Omni Integra, that Omni Integra explain that as integrating everything and helping companies scale up, and scale out from Singapore. And that's a very, very structured positioning based on your own word in the pre podcast call. When you explain, and I want to jump on that. When you explain Omni Integra to someone outside your industry, how do you describe what you actually do and who you help?
Thanks, Laurent. Omni Integra, as the name suggests, is to integrate everything. But while talking to my friend in England, she said, doesn't it mean Omni Integra? And I went like, you pronounce it differently. He says, I thought it was in integrity. And I said, good. Now I learned something new about my own company. It's integrating with integrity. So that's the basis of it. What do we do actually? We package it into 3 different categories of services. I call it a practice because I don't like to call it consultancy, because that name is not very much appreciated, at least from my experience. What does it do? So we want to make sure that companies that engage us are successful. Now, that's a motherhood statement that any companies will tell you. But I think what is important is what do we do to make them successful? So firstly, building on humanizing technology and human-centered technology. Omni Integra, or Integra in this case, actually provides a different spin on technology. We tell a humanized technology story. We don't tell bits and bytes. We tell how technology impacts their client, their target audience, and so forth. So what are the 3 categories? The first category, you kind of touch on it, is scaling into Singapore. Now, I'm very fortunate to be living in a country that has a high, in the last budget, we call it Singapore Premium. And Singapore Premium means the image, the brand of Singapore in the global arena is very, very appealing. What do we stand for? We stand for an innovative country. We stand for a country that has good ethics and good governance, good infrastructure, good government. And therefore, it becomes a very, very healthy playground for businesses. The naysayers will always say, hey, you only have 6.11 million people. You fit into a small corner of Mumbai, for example. What's so great? Again, if you kind of peel the onion, you will realize that out of those 6.11 million, I think over 3 million Israeli citizens and PR, and the rest are professionals that come to work in Singapore. Don't forget that Singapore has over 7,800 corporate headquarters. So just laying the ground for what I'm going to tell you about Omni Integra services. So with that, you may have 5 people sitting in headquarters in Singapore managing 10,000 in India, 15,000 in China. So it's the power of economy versus the power of physical people in that sense. So let me kind of now, bring in the 3 categories. We help companies scale into Singapore. So it's scale in, scale up, scale out. scale into Singapore where you need to establish and everything. And we pride ourselves to have a very, very easy system to welcome companies. But easy system doesn't mean no system. You still need to have people to understand it. So we come up with strategies and all that to help companies, whatever you are promoting. So right now we have companies from the US in AI, in mobile security that we brought into Singapore. We help them establish in Singapore. Company registration is your operational services, banks and stuff like that. But very importantly, when they scale in, why would you scale in if you don't want to do business? So you need to scale up. The scale up here basically is how do you build a brand? How do you define your messages that would resonate with the markets here? And very importantly, how do you build a network of partners who will help you sell, promote your products, promote your solution? And if you don't want to do that, then why scale in the first place? So we provide advisory, consultation, services to all this company and even down to execution. So on the scale up part, we go from strategy to execution. And here's the differentiating factor. Omni Integra has a community called Omni Superconnectors. We have, probably top leaders in different industry, over 30 of them in Omni Superconnectors. What do they do? For example, Dr. Nur Saidatu, whom I hope you will interview, is the lead for sustainability, and she's in Malaysia. So what does she come with? She comes with, obviously, knowledge and experience in sustainability. I call her the soul of sustainability. And she comes with a whole gamut of her connections. And we've got Dr. Timothy Low, who used to be the CEO of Glen Eagles and Farrer Park Hospital. And he obviously is in healthcare. And he has his own network of healthcare professionals and companies, and so on and so forth. And we have Pak Anta, who's in Bali, who develops a blockchain system. So if you tick the boxes, geographically, are we spread out? Yes. Functionally, are we spread out? Yes. But the common thing is we all have our own community of connections. And together, we have close to 1 million connections. So why this community? Well, when business comes in, they need communities to support. And regardless of what business you are in, you're going to target different industry. So these people can help. And we work on a very different model. We do not really sign agreement with each other because the amount we earn is probably not enough to pay the lawyers. We build it on human trust. What does it mean? If Dr. Noor and I agree on, hey, if you bring me a piece of business and it is, let's say, $10,000 a month, and I promise you that I will give you 10% of the 10,000 for the first 3 months, that's the promise. And of course, people say the Achilles heel there is you trust too much. What if she doesn't pay you? And I said, then that would be the last time I would ever give her a lead, right? I still want to give humanity a chance in a world that seems to be lacking in trust these days. So those are the things that we do in the building up phase. Now, once you have your revenue coming in and your business coming in and you're ready to scale out, then depending on your business, you may want to scale out to Indonesia, for example, which has close to 280 million people. Now, if you're in consumer, that's a big market, not 6.11 in Singapore. Like Malaysia on the north of Singapore also has 32 million thereabouts. So we've got the number. In fact, 50% of the world's population live in my part of the world. It's huge. So scale in, we will help you build the, a register and do all the necessary operational stuff. Scale up, which is the big, lifting that we need to do, is to help you with building up your brand, develop your message, target your audience, build your community of partners. And when you are ready and when you want to scale out to neighboring countries, we also have an agreement with the IT Park, Uzbekistan, so that we could tap into IT skill professionals from there at probably much lesser cost than what you would enjoy in Singapore. So hopefully that's the construct of what Omni Integra does. And on top of that, we think we are a company of ideas. We see weird connections that many people don't see. That's one of my pride and joy. Give you one example before we finish this question. Dr. Noor came and said, hey, sustainability is a big trend now. But the challenge in sustainability is with grants and funding, you need an audited report to get it. Because it came in such a hurry, there is not enough people in the marketplace that could assess. So that was her statement of challenge. Pak Anta in Bali, on the other hand, said, hey, the Balinese cottage industry in this weave called tenun, beautiful, is dying, and he wants to help them because he's Balinese. I said, why are they dying? He said, because tourists doesn't know any better. Some businessman from Jakarta would buy the weave and go back to Jakarta and print and sell it at 1/10 of the cost. So the artisans in Bali doesn't get the business. So that's his statement of challenge. And I said, they can't pay you. You can't survive. Your company closed down. They closed down their business as well. So here's the weird combination that nobody has actually thought of putting sustainability on blockchain. So I got two of my good friends together and, I said, Dr. No, could you put your assessment framework on blockchain? He says, I don't see why not. I said, Pak Anta, can you track who has taken the assessment and what is the next, what you call steps? And he said, of course. So we came up with a system called Sustainix. It's a platform that actually will track, trace using token to build trust. We call it the 4T, track, trace, tokenization, and trust, so that you can actually apply it to many things. So the first project was done in Bali in tracking waste, right? For people who have been to Bali, you know that they do prayer trays every day, small house, 25, big house, over 100, and they have to change it every day. So you've got organic waste. What do you do with them? And if you read the news, you know that Bali has a big waste management problem. So with this system, you can track which village produces more organic and which village produces more inorganic, and then be able to arrange different skilled professionals to process those different types of waste. So Omni Integra is the one who brought in these two people, which is a alliance that was now it's natural. I mean, when I bring them together, they were like, what do you want me to do with the other guy? They've never met before. And so they're part of Omni Superconnectors, and that's also the value of that community. Sorry, I kind of rattle on.
Okay. No, it's so interesting that I don't want to stop you, but okay, I have a zillion questions, obviously, and you blew many of my previous questions, and that's
Thank you.
perfect. We right on track. You are operating at the intersection of AI, sustainability, and international expansion, which add complexity compared to a single focus company. You shared a very strong viewpoint during our conversation. You prefer the term smarter cities rather than smart cities because it focuses on people and sustainability. Again, then people over-focus on technology and under-focus on human impact.
Short answer is yes. I think at the end of the day, we serve human beings. We serve the planet. And learning from Dr. Noor from a sustainability perspective, she worked with a guy called Joe Carboni, who has a company called the Green Project Management GPM, which came up with 5P. What are the 5P? The 5P model are peace, prosperity, process, people, and planet. And I've been championing humanizing technology for the whole of my career. But there wasn't something that actually anchors it. Dr. Noor and I know each other for 31 years. We were the pioneers of multimedia supercorridor in Malaysia. We lost touch because I moved all over the place. I lived in China, Hong Kong, Australia. Singapore, Canada, Europe. And when we re-meet 15 years ago, she said, it's not a request, it's a instruction. And she's my mentor. She said, you have to get into sustainability because it completes your idea of humanizing technology. And she was absolutely right. And using this 5P, people need to look at technology as tools because it comes and goes. I know the most prevalent one today is AI, right? But do we know that AI was actually around 50 years ago, right? I was the guy that brought in the first computer that beat Kasparov at chess in IBM called Deep Blue. If you remember that, that's over 20 years ago. But why isn't AI realized? Because people weren't able to interact with AI. It was this snake oil and some like magic somewhere. You put something in, something comes out. I don't know how. And sometimes we today still don't know how it does that. And it exploded in our face on November 2022 when ChatGPT came to the world. And all of a sudden, you can converse with ChatGPT. And now you've got a whole gamut Claude, Gemini. One of the companies that I represent, Graphen AI, is coming up with digital human that actually interacts with the human beings in the language that you speak. You can speak to the digital human in French, and it will reply to you in French. To do what? To extract the data that's in the database, right? Needless to say that AI is the only technology we know today that actually can make decisions. All the previous technologies to AI basically is for transformation, for efficiency, for effectiveness. So coming back to the question, why human-centered or humanizing technology? Well, if we do not use technology as a tool to serve humans would have to serve technology. And to me, the first humanizing iconic moment for me was when Apple invented the wastebasket at the bottom corner of the right-hand side of your screen. Why? Because does it need any guidebooks or instruction manual to use that? No. The instruction manual was instilled in us by our mothers. Things that you don't like, put it in a wastebasket. Intuitive. Is that humanizing of technology? Absolutely. So when you kind of look at a lot of the things that we use today, maybe a microwave, a recorder box or whatever, you probably have to read through some manual to be able to operate it, right? And with now AI, can you just talk to it in your own language at your own time? Yes. So it brings humanizing technology to a new frontier. Are we completely there yet? No. So with that, complying to building processes that would bring prosperity to the people and peace to the planet, the 5 Ps is in a way realized, at least in components, if not as the whole. And building smarter cities, because if I say smart city, then I would be arrogantly saying that the previous cities are all stupid. As human beings, we progress. We build smarter things as we go along. And with whatever technology that comes on, I mean, now it's AI, next is quantum computing and whatever, it will always be a new cycle of technology. And the question is, how do we apply it? How do we apply it humanly for the benefit of the planet, for the people, and so forth? At this juncture, everyone says you speak like an old man. It's like, and I say very simply, I think us human beings should have this mantra. We should leave this earth in a better place than when we found it. It's a simple request, right? So that's how I kind of concocted human-centered, humanized technology to build a sustainable, smarter city. And that is frankly not something that is absolutely new. So we actually created a movement here called Balik Asal. Balik Asal is 2 Malay words, one phrase, which means return to the original. Before the word sustainability was defined, people were already doing it. They just don't call it sustainability. And the more and more that I talk to companies on building sustainable systems, the more I realize that I'm learning more from them than they're learning from me. Because you go to Bali and you go like, oh yeah, this is what we do. We actually bring the organic waste and we make it compost, and then we put cow dung into it and it's 3 times more fertile. And then we grow earthworms, which we actually make the soil, because of the chemical excretion, even more fertile. And then we put it into plants that could actually grow a aubergine 3 times faster than normal. And now they're feeding the earthworms to chicken that produce eggs that are 15% bigger. They didn't know that it was called biodynamics. They didn't know it was called sustainability. We're the one who come in and say, oh my God, you're doing that biodynamics. They go like, oh, what's that? I said, that's what we do. And they're building a community where young people in villages are now getting jobs. So the family construct stays intact. So you're talking about prosperity, not so much financial prosperity, but prosperity to people. And then the community construct stays intact because the family construct stays intact. And they came up with this whole idea that every employee, they are given a cow. And you go like, what's the deal here? Is it because we want to add cow dung to the compost to make it more fertile? I cannot be running around the whole of Bali collecting cow dung. So every employee that comes in is given a cow with a promise that they'll bring in the cow dung every day to mix with the compost. And so you see the whole cycle that is happening. And I'm so happy that it is actually coming from rural areas where technology is not so pervasive yet, versus big cities that we pride ourselves to have sensors and all this, that doesn't think that way. So last point is we need to think circular to be encompassing and inclusive, which is a sustainability promise, rather than linear. Did you win or did I win? That's how war starts. Did you make profit? No, I have to make all the profit. I don't care about you. So if you go back to the cow story, just the cow itself gives employment to the youngsters, gives, prosperity to the business of the waste management, and through it brings peace to family, to community, and hopefully through the process to the planet as well.
Okay, I love it. I love it. You spoke about launching, and you spoke before launching initiative like Sustainix and using blockchain for sustainability tracking through your ecosystem collaborations.
Yes.
How do you decide which project or innovation to support through your network?
Well, frankly, at the inaugural stage, it is not so much to choose from, is whether they choose us. And there's nothing to be humble about. It is true. So when you have a system built up for the right reasons, you need to also collaborate with people who will use it. Right. So Sustainix came about because of Pak Anta in Bali, who built it on blockchain, has a friend who runs a waste management company. So community still comes into play in a big way. But to your question, how do we choose? I think we choose projects based on impact that we can deliver versus how much money will it give us. Now, of course, financial impact is also part of impact. And we are a business. We need to survive before we can help the next person. So the evaluation comes in many criteria, right? Firstly, how does it impact from a sustainability? We have to tick the boxes of the 5 Ps. And with that, are we able to, make $1 out of it? If there's another project that doesn't tick the boxes of sustainability and gives us $3, we'll probably choose the one that gives us $1 that ticks all the boxes for sustainability. Because again, I can't provide all the services for sustainability. Dr. Noor has to come in. So it becomes a community decision in the sense of what do we take. And I think at this juncture, the world of sustainability is still very much in its infancy, where good ideas needs to be fostered and nurtured. Let me use this opportunity to pre-announce two things. One is on April 16, during the Asia Pacific Sustainability Conference, we will be announcing the kindness movement. How do we bring kindness back to the world? And kindness, it's not just an emotional thing. It is also a business thing. If you're kind to yourself, if you're kind to your employees, if you're kind to your customers, then kindness will bring you business, right? It's the prosperity for people, peace for planet process, right? So today we tend to use stress as an excuse to say, I'm rushing this, so I'm going to be rude to you, whether I know it or not. And in the kindness movement, we are going to start a 15-second kindness exercise, where when you see somebody on a train in the morning going to work and they look sad, is it so wrong to go over and say, is everything okay? This will pass. Does it cost you anything? No. Does it make the other person feel better? I hope so. At least he or she feels that they are noticed, right? So it doesn't take big, corporate citizenship program to bring 100 people to an orphanage. Yes, that's kindness too. I'm not poo-pooing on that. But it starts with self. It starts with yourself, right? The other one that we're launching or pre-launching here is this thing called the Genius Project. Genius Project stands for Generative Environment. I can't remember the whole thing, but it is basically using waste, because the S is scraps. So we want to put I won't say competition, a program out there to say to youngsters, young and old, to say, can you come up with a project that uses waste material, not recycle, regenerate a new type of product that would help the planet and make a business for the people for prosperity? So I'm pre-announcing it here. I don't know when this podcast will be put into the market. It could be a pre-announcement, or it could be just in time. We'll see. So back to what you asked and what you said, I think we need to be very, very conscious of building solutions that will impact the world in a positive way, and not what we see around the world today in terms of war and rudeness, and only you can win, and I have to lose, but in a circular way of having a prosperous world.
Yeah, I love it. Okay. Then I'm honored then you put on my show you to next mission, and thank you for sharing.
No
No,
worries.
it's everything is so amazingly full of wisdom. And what advice will you give to a founder building an AI sustainability or a smarter city innovation today?
Well, I guess it's a summation of everything I've said earlier.
Yeah, definitely.
Know your why, know your purpose. And the purpose cannot be, it's the best technology in the world. The purpose has to come in two parts. The best technology in the world to do what, right? A lot of people miss the second part of that statement. I work with a lot of founders of startups and all that. And, as we become better friends, you know that I'm a very direct, unfiltered person. And I would go in and analyze their business, and I would say, here's the good part. Continue doing it and let's make it better. And here's the not so good part, the bad part. Let's take away some of the things that we can't change, and then probably make amendments to the things that we think we can. And here's the ugly bucket. Don't ever touch that again. And when you speak to especially technology founders, they are so consumed by their product value proposition. They don't see a value proposition from a business, nor a solution, nor a platform perspective. And I usually didn't get the business, and they said, how dare you come into my shop and tell me that my product is no good? I said, I didn't say it's no good. I'm just giving you what is good, the bad, and the ugly. And I akin it to going into somebody's house and telling them that their daughter is ugly. So they always say, okay, can you, I'm not going to engage. I've got another advisor that will come in and be my yes person, and will say everything that they want to hear. And my usual deduction is that in 3 to 6 months, your company won't exist because you're so consumed with your own arrogance, or on a good day, your pride of the solution or the technology that you've invented. So the advice here is be very, how should I say, conscious of why you are developing it. Make the two-part statement thing. I'm developing this. Good. And that the for part is your value, not how fast it runs, how many instances it can take in, how many e-commerce transactions it can cater for. That's the what part, right?
Definitely.
And so that's the first one. And please go and consult with the community, with your friends, with your family. Has it with them, because hopefully your friends and their family do not have evil intentions that want you to fail. But when they say something, accept it as status, as verbatim, and it is a gift to you to make better your what and maybe sharpen your why in the construct. So I start with very, very simple philosophy of more democratic in a way of getting input, because that's free most times. It's not so much, input from an advisory standpoint. That's important as well, once you already got your value established or in the process. But start with a very, very important value proposition of why you're doing what you're doing. Then you go to the what and the how. I know many books have been written about it, but when you kind of go out into the real world, you don't see it being practiced so often. It's always, what am I developing? How am I developing it? And how am I going to sell it to people? Why are you developing it? What do you mean? I told you. No, you told me the what. You didn't tell me the why. Yeah, hopefully that helps.
Thank you so much. Yes, the why is the most important to answer from the beginning. Daniel, thank you so much for joining. Strong insights into your journey, your philosophy on humanizing technology, and the work you're doing at Omni Integra to build sustainable, smarter ecosystem. I really, really enjoy these 45 minutes, and I'm very, very sorry. It should
Has it been
go
45
on
minutes? Wow.
hours. It should go for so much. We should do another one. And I really enjoy listening
Thank you, Laurent.
to your wisdom. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Laurent. So if any one of your readers or your listeners, wants to contact with me, I'm on LinkedIn. Just
Exactly.
look for Daniel CFNG. I won't even pronounce the Daniel CFNG on LinkedIn, and you'll find me. Thank you so much again for the opportunity, Laurent. Merci
Thank
beaucoup.
you. Thank you so much. And that's it for today's episode of AI InterConnect. And if you enjoy it, share it with someone who's building the future, or better yet, someone who should be. And until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and keep building. Thank you, Daniel. See you very soon.
Thank you.